Hi everyone, TJ Mac Vintage Cards here, and today I'm going to show off some recent purchases as well as a gift that I received from Ed, Angry Old Man, which was just unexpected but much appreciated. And the first card I'm going to show off today is a 67 Topps Tony Oliva. With him getting inducted to the Hall of Fame, I had a feeling he was going to get in, as many probably did, so I started picking up a few of his cards. I didn't have any in my collection of his, and the 67 is one that I really like, because it's just it's got the Yankee Stadium backdrop there, as you can see, with the facade right below his name on the top. And I like also that it has the patch on his sleeve in the photo there. And 67 is just a nice design because it really allows the picture to do the talking from that year. And if you have nice photographs, it really comes across well on these cards. So the Oliva, I think, fits in with that. You can see him there in a swing pose, which he's known as a very good hitter of his time. So it's nice to have that reflected in my collection. Another card I picked up was this Vern Stephens, 52 Topps. And I wanted to get a Vern Stephens for a while. Not particularly this one, but I came across this one at a good price. And I do like the 52 Topps set. I don't have a lot of those cards reflected in my collection. But Vern Stephens is somebody that, you know, he played for the Browns, the Orioles, the White Sox, and most notably for the Red Sox. But I was always pretty enamored with him because for a shortstop of that era, he had tremendous offensive production with batting average, home runs, and really RBIs. And he led the American League in RBIs 3 times and twice led the majors with 159 in 1949 and 144 in 1950. And Stephens played, I believe it was from 1941 until 1954, I want to say. So he didn't have a super long career, but he had a decent career. And he finished top 5 in the MVP 3 times and was top 10 6 times. His 159 RBIs, that was the 22nd best RBI season ever in Major League Baseball history. And really what makes it special is, for one thing, Ted Williams also had 159 RBIs in 1949, and it was the highest total by any player between 1939 and 1998. And anybody who knows baseball history knows that the late 20s and early 30s was a really tremendous offensive era, as well as the late 90s and early 2000s. So that's where you see a lot of the RBI totals that are very high. But over a 10-year period, Vern Stephens, he had 23 home runs and 105 RBIs averaged a year, and he made 8 All-Star teams during that time. He was also a pretty good defender as well. Bobby Doerr's teammate said he was really good at setting up the double play at shortstop, and just was known for a pretty good glove. But I will say this, I was reading that Ted Williams was not quite as enamored with Vern Stephens. For example, in the 1949 season, the Yankees and Red Sox were battling down the stretch, and the Red Sox were up by 1 game with 2 games to go. So the Yankees needed to win both games. And it was said that in the first inning of the first game, Ted Williams was on first base, and Tommy Henrich was playing first base for the Yankees, and Williams pointed towards the shortstop, and he said, if we had that little squirt, we'd be out in front by 10 games right now. And the shortstop Williams was referring to was none other than Phil Rizzuto. And the Boston shortstop at that time was Vern Stephens, as I said, and the statistics were not even close between Stephens and Rizzuto. Stephens hit 290, Rizzuto hit 275. Stephens had 39 home runs and 159 runs batted in. Rizzuto hit 5 home runs and drove in 64. Even if you look at the more advanced statistics, Stephens had a 391 on-base average and slugged 539 for an 872 OPS. Rizzuto had a 352 on-base average and a 358 slugging percentage for a 711 OPS. So either way of looking at it, Stephens was the better player, it was thought. But at that era, I mean, they looked at the way Rizzuto played. Rizzuto was the ultimate team player. The Yankees didn't have a lot of superstars on that team at that time, but they had 25 really good players on their roster. And that really spoke volumes for Ted Williams to say that, because he recognized the team play that the Yankees exhibited. And what really was interesting, too, is that at that time it was said that Vern Stephens was up on the trading block if somebody wanted him after that season. So I just found that interesting to me, and it just kind of goes to show you that if you are a Hall of Fame voter, you really should be looking at more than just the numbers. You got to understand the perspective of how players were thought of during that era that they played in as well. And like I said, I'm really just kind of through worrying about who's in the Hall of Fame, who's not. I'm just picking players in my collection that are reflective of who I enjoy and who I think were good players. I think I have as good opinion as anybody does. And if you look at the Hall of Fame voting, aside from the people that always should be getting in, like the level of Frank Robinson or Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle or Al Kaline, those are the easy ones. But there are so many disparities when you get to the players that are more marginal. And I'm really just kind of tired of the analysis on it, to be honest with you. I'm just going to buy the players that I like and move on. I think you can make a case for Vern Stephens to be in as much as you could have made a case for Tony Oliva. And anybody who tells you different, that's fine. But I just kind of over that whole discussion. So I'm just glad to add these two really nice players to my collection. And the other card I was going to show, and this one I've had in my collection for a little while, is this Gil Hodges. I've always collected Gil Hodges cards, and without, I guess, knowing it, I wasn't always specifically looking to get Hall of Famers. I had Gil Hodges and Roger Maris, for example, of course, Pete Rose, a lot of Steve Garvey cards, some Jim Rice before he got in the Hall of Fame. So if I recognize somebody as a good player that I was just really somebody that I wanted to add in my collection, I would just add them. And Gil Hodges would be one of them. But I picked up a football card recently that kind of reminds me of the Gil Hodges discussion of why he wasn't in the Hall of Fame for so long, and that would be this L.C. Greenwood rookie, because there's a lot of Dodgers in the Hall of Fame, just like there's a lot of Yankees from that era, and I think Gil Hodges suffered from that similar to L.C. Greenwood for the Steelers. Now, Greenwood played from 1969 to 1981, and this is his 72 Topps rookie card. He was a 2-time All-Pro, a 6-time Pro Bowl defensive end for those great 70 Steelers team. He was part of that steel curtain, and he was known for wearing gold shoes on the field. And he really was an imposing presence, though. He was 6'6", and he was the player really that the quarterbacks feared the most on the pass rush. Mean Joe Green was the better player, but he was more on the inside and great against the run, and he'd get sacks too. But Greenwood was feared because he could smack passes down on the end there because he was so tall. And he has a Super Bowl record of 4 sacks as well. And he's unofficially credited with 78 sacks for his career, and he led the team 6 times. Now, it's unofficial because the sack was not an official statistic until 1982, and Greenwood was already retired at that point. And I think he gets penalized because the Steelers are a legendary team. Now, the defense of the 70s for the Steelers already has Mel Blount and Jack Lambert and Jack Ham and Mean Joe Green and Donnie Shell. And then on offense, they got Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Mike Webster, Lynn Swan, and John Stallworth. So I think the writers punish a guy like Greenwood a little bit because there are so many Steelers in the Hall of Fame, but I think he's Hall of Fame worthy. And another player that I'm going to point out, just the last card I'm going to show before I show the gift from Ed, is this Cliff Branch rookie. I do think Cliff Branch is going to get in the Hall of Fame this year, which I'm thrilled with. I bought this card in August before he got through the senior committee. I don't talk about prices a lot, but I did pay $50 for this card on a buy it now. This card, if he gets in the Hall of Fame, it's already selling for well over $100 in this grade, but he gets in the Hall of Fame, it's going to be an over $200 card, similar to the Drew Pearson from the same set. So I was glad to get this one now. I'm not looking to sell it. I'm a collector, but I'm also somebody that tries to look at the trends and gets the cards before the prices go up. So I do know my football rookie's pretty good, and I'm always watching the Hall of Fame and things like that so I can get players added in my collection before the prices get too out of hand. But Cliff Branch, he was really known for wearing that iconic number 21, and you can see part of that in the picture here, which was odd for a receiver from that era. And he was a 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, and a 3-time Super Bowl champion. And what always kind of bothered me is that Lynn Swan's in the Hall of Fame and Cliff Branch is not. And Branch was every bit the equal, if not better in some ways. Certainly Swan had the grace and really had a lot of highlight reel catches, but statistically, Branch was the better receiver statistically, and he was also a faster receiver that really stretched those defenses and worked well with the vertical game that the Raiders were running in the 1970s. And he was teamed, of course, with Hall of Famer Fred Biletnikoff, and he really was a feared player, Branch was. And he led the league in receiving yards with 1,092 in 1974, and twice in touchdowns with 13 in 1974 and 12 in 1976. And when he retired in 1985, Branch had 8,685 yards, which was 11th all-time. So he really was one of the top receivers of his day. I think he is going to get in the Hall of Fame this year, and that'll be great if he does. And if he doesn't, it's fine with me. I have a great player in my collection. I'm happy to have him. So now I'm going to cut over and show you what Ed got me. I appreciate you checking out these latest pickups. I want to thank Ed for the nice Christmas card he had sent me, Ed with an Angry Old Man. And here's a card right here. And inside he had wrote, thanks for being a supporter of the channel. Your videos are fantastic, full of great information, and your collection is amazing. Thanks for sharing it. All the best, Ed, Angry Old Man. And Ed had sent me here a Pierre Pilote signed photograph. And I have it next to the Bobby Hall one he had sent me a while back when I had a contest win on his channel. So I'm just real happy that he had done this. So first of all, it was unexpected and it's greatly appreciated. It goes really nice with the Bobby Hall. So here I just have a couple cards displayed with it of Hall and Pilote to further enhance the image here that I'm showing. So I just want to thank Ed for that. And Pilote, for those who don't know, I did a video of him for my my 30 card case vintage hockey build that I'm doing, and he's profiled in one of those videos. And Pilote really was probably one of the 15, 20 best defensemen ever. He was a 3-time Norris Trophy winner as the best defenseman in the NHL. He played from the 1950s into the late 1960s, all with the Chicago Blackhawks. So I just wanted to share that. And again, appreciate it, Ed. And everybody have a great day.